Inner Quest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us. Welcome to Inner Quest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Rick Vrenois.
Nice to see you.
Welcome, Rick. And Rick is an author of 2 books, A Medical Kahuna. I'm looking forward to learning more about that. He teaches classes throughout the United States and Europe. Rick has also authored a couple books and has been in many DVDs and produced many audio programs. Rick, tell our audience a little bit about your organization and what you teach.
Sure. I co-founded an organization called Keala Kahiko. It's a Hawaiian foundation that's dedicated to preserving and carrying forward the traditions of old Hawaii, the healing and spiritual traditions.
And is this organization in the United States, or I mean on the mainland, or is it just in Hawaii?
We're here on the mainland right now. We're based outside of Chicago, and but we do a lot of trainings back in the islands. We do trainings across the country as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you call yourself a medical kahuna. What does that mean?
Actually, what I am, because I'm not a Hawaiian, I don't have Hawaiian blood, I'm actually what's called a kahuomana, which is a title. We believe that the term kahuna, which is a master or a priest, needs to have Hawaiian blood in order to hold that title. So what I've been granted through my training is this title called kahuomana, which is about the highest title that a non-Hawaiian can receive. But a medical kahuna, and what I do as a non-Hawaiian, is we do the medicines of Hawaii. We do the traditions of healing, and that can include working with herbs, working with spiritual work, prayer, and energy healing. It can be done through psychological work. It can be done through many different ways. But it's about helping a person become much more whole inside of themselves, so that they can be and do what they need to do in their life.
And do you feel like Hawaiian traditions, which is a very tropical climate, could work in, let's say, the Chicago area, which is very cold?
Absolutely. This is something that the beautiful thing about Hawaii and the traditions that come from Hawaii is that it's about nature, and it doesn't really matter if it's standing on a beach or standing in front of a snow hill. The work is the same. It's being able to connect with the elemental energies, being able to work with the elements of fire, air, water, and earth, because those are the building blocks of who and what we are and how life works.
Well, the Hawaiian healing system sounds a lot like Chinese, which uses the 5 elements, or perhaps Ayurveda, the Indian system.
There's relationships, or there's connections. The Hawaii is the most remote place on the planet. It is 2,500 miles from anything, and so the Hawaiians came across the islands, set up a life there, and they taught themselves these ways of healing so that they could, by observing nature, by standing and watching the ocean for years and years, just watching and learning how the ocean moved, or how the clouds moved, or how fire worked, and by understanding how those elemental energies worked, they were able to build their own systems.
I'm laughing because you talked about how the waves moved. When I was in Hawaii, I wanted to go boogie boarding, and so I asked one of the local surfer dudes, is this a good day to learn how to boogie board? And this guy crashes into the rocks. He says, "Oh, very good day."
Yeah.
Now you have an interesting Hawaiian name. Can you tell our audience your Hawaiian name and what it means?
Sure. I was seen by the elders and recognized as Pono Uhane Ho'okuakua, which means maker of spaces of spiritual hope and well-being. And the way that this works is that the elders of the lineage look at each person to see who and what they are and how they stand in the tradition. And so for me, my work is about holding sacred space. That in this method of healing is that it's about being able to open the space, provide the resources so that each person who comes to me can have what they need to be able to heal and adjust and shift in their lives so that they're able to remember what they already know.
Okay, so if someone comes to you, for healing, there's the assumption that they need to create some sacred space?
That's my job, is to hold the space for them. It's like if you think about today's society where you're in a job and you're working and the boss is coming at you and everything just feels like it's compressing in. The more that life compresses in, the harder it is for you to be able to breathe and do what you need. By opening up the space a little bit, by giving a little separation between you and the rest of the world, you've got the ability to then move.
Well, I find the concept of sacred space very interesting and congruent with psychiatrist E.W. Winnicott, a very famous child psychiatrist. He said that the therapist's job is to create a holding space.
Yes.
Yeah. And well, and he was a child psychiatrist, so that's what the parents' job were do. You know, you got to give children enough room to explore and take chances, but not enough room where they hurt themselves.
Absolutely.
Now, so when you're talking to someone, how do you recognize where space needs to be opened, and how do you go about helping that person open the space?
This work is always about the person who's coming in. It's always looking at who and what they are, and it's not so much about me going in and doing something to them. You know, there's things that I can do to support them. I can help provide them with some of the energetic resources. I can fill them up with mana or the elements. But ultimately what that's about is just giving them the ability so that they can tap into their own natural wisdom. It would be really inappropriate for me to go in and try to actually change somebody. Because if I just change somebody, I've taken away their opportunity for healing. I've taken away their opportunity for learning and growing as a spiritual being. But if I open up the space, give them a little room, give them a handhold when they're getting wobbly, then they're learning how to do it on their own, and it's powerful and it's theirs.
And so the traditional Hawaiian way to open up the space, or is that your take on it?
Each person who's trained through this tradition is trained how to be themselves. I studied under two different teachers. Each one of them are very, very unique. And if I were to try and emulate them, if I were to try and become them, that would be the worst insult possible, because they are them and I'm me. I have my own gifts, I have my own skills. So it's taking the basic constructs, the basic understandings of how life works, but then letting myself be who I am within that in relationship with the other person.
So if you see the kahuna in the road, kill him instead of seeing the Buddha.
That's right, yeah.
Now, these teachers, how long have you studied with them?
I've been studying energy healing in general for 24 years, and studying and also been a teacher for most of that. But in terms of my formal structured training within the Hawaiian traditions, it's been 12 years.
And what led you to the Hawaiian method?
When I was 8 years old, I had a friend who went to Hawaii, and he came back and started talking about. I grew up in Arlington Heights, and when I heard this person talking about Hawaii, there was just this warrior that just rose up inside of me. It's like I didn't know anything about it at all, but there was just something that said, this is sacred. I had the opportunity to live in Hawaii for a while, and they're really connected with the traditions. My wife and I really felt that was home, that was a place to be, traditionally as well as location, and then we eventually managed to connect with a teacher. It was one of those where when you're ready, the teacher will appear.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And